Private Hank Brody never planned to fight in any war. He only joined the Interstellar Peace Corps because the recruiter promised two things. His parking tickets would disappear, and he might get free dental work. Hank figured he would mop clean hallways on safe stations, nod politely at passing officers, and go home with a better smile. Then a paperwork error hit like a meteor. One morning a heavy crate slammed onto the porch of his tiny apartment. The label said, "Frontline equipment, urgent." Inside was a bent set of combat armor that looked like it belonged to a giant, a laser pistol that smelled like old soup, and a shiny badge with the name Lieutenant Hazard Puncher printed in bold letters. His mother laughed so hard she dropped her knitting needles. Hank stared at the badge and whispered, "I don't even punch pillows." 2 days later, he was standing on the surface of Threxion 9, a dead planet of dust, cracked rock, and constant lightning. The sky flickered purple, as if the planet itself had a broken light switch. Explosions popped across the horizon, and strange animal screams echoed through the smoke. He squinted at the battlefield. It looked like someone threw a party inside a washing machine and hit the "destroy everything" button. Hank tried to find his unit. He tried to find anyone. He found nothing. Just wind, and a distant human voice yelling, "We're all going to die," from somewhere far away. Hank swallowed. "Hope that's not me," he muttered. Then the ground trembled. A marching sound rolled forward, heavy steps, like thunder mixed with wet slaps. Out of the smoke came a line of reptile-like warriors, 75 of them, wearing armor that shimmered like hot metal. Their plasma spears glowed bright enough to hurt Hank's eyes. Behind them floated an ornate hover chariot wrapped in violet banners and decorated with gold spikes. Sitting on it, calm as a ruler in a nightmare, was Queen Saravixa. She had 4 eyes. None of them blinked. All of them stared at Hank. Hank slowly turned his head to look behind him, just in case he was not the main problem. Nope. Still alone. "What the heck?" he whispered. He tried to run. He really did. But his armor locked itself 2 minutes earlier when he sneezed and accidentally hit a button with his nose. Now his legs were stuck in a half lunge. The best he could do was lean forward awkwardly, like a man trying to enter a bathroom he didn't trust. The chariot stopped. Queen Saravixa lifted one hand, and the entire alien army halted perfectly. 75 warriors stared at Hank in complete silence. Hank raised his hand and gave a weak wave. A voice barked in the alien language. Hank's helmet translated it badly. "Look, the human challenges us alone with, is that a mop?" Hank looked down. In his hands was his janitor mop. He had forgotten his weapon back home. Somewhere on his porch, his real rifle probably sat next to a half-eaten sandwich. Hank sighed. Of course. The reptile warriors spread out into a circle around him, weapons ready. They weren't attacking yet. They were watching. Waiting. Like this was a royal show. Queen Saravixa didn't speak. She only made a small gesture. They wanted him to fight. Hank tightened his grip on the mop handle and whispered, "Oh, Hank. You've cleaned worse messes than this. Time to scrub." He lunged forward. What happened next was not a heroic charge. It was a disaster. He stumbled, dropped the mop, tried to grab it while moving, tripped, flipped upside down, and landed mop first into the chest of the nearest warrior. There was a sharp crack. The warrior made a shocked gurgle and collapsed. Hank blinked at the fallen alien. The mop worked. The circle of warriors took one step back. Hank stood up slowly, dizzy and terrified, and pointed the mop like it was a legendary weapon. "Yeah," he shouted because his mouth was running faster than his brain. "Who else wants a polishing?" Another warrior rushed him. Hank flailed in panic and swung the mop head across the alien's face. The mop was soaked in industrial cleaner from Hank's last job. It splattered into the warrior's eyes. The alien screamed, blinded, dropped his spear, and fell backward into a crater. Hank stared at the mop like it had betrayed the laws of nature. More warriors came at him. Hank didn't become skilled. He became lucky in a very loud way. His mop got stuck in one alien's armor, and Hank yanked so hard that the warrior flew into 3 others. Hank tried to throw a rock and threw his boot instead. The boot bounced off a glowing plasma battery, which exploded and fried a whole group of soldiers. He slipped in dust and accidentally ducked under a spear that would have taken his head off. He crashed into another warrior who tripped over him, and they both rolled down a slope like two angry barrels. After 15 minutes of non-stop chaos, the battlefield went quiet. Hank stood alone, panting, armor scorched, mop head slightly on fire. The alien army had scattered. Some fled. Some fainted. Some lay buried under their own spears. On her chariot, Queen Saravixa began to clap. Twice. 3 times. Her soldiers joined in, clapping and cheering like Hank had performed an amazing show. One warrior raised Hank's missing boot like a sacred trophy. Hank whispered, "Am I dead? Is this the afterlife? Why does the afterlife have lizards with rhythm?" Queen Saravixa stood tall on her chariot. Her voice echoed across the craters. "Human, you fight with madness and mop." Hank waved again. "Thanks. You are either a fool," she continued, "or the bravest warrior I have ever seen." Hank scratched his helmet. "Probably both." The queen nodded once. "I will watch you, mop wielder." Then her chariot glided away into the smoke. Hank stayed frozen, staring after her. Was that flirting? Hours later, the legend grew faster than Hank could hide from it. He tried. He truly tried. He ended up crouched inside an overturned alien supply barrel behind a wrecked command post, eating an energy ration bar that tasted like boiled wires. His mop leaned beside him like a holy staff. Alien scouts crept past, whispering. Hank's translation chip, damaged from a soda spill, interpreted their words as, "Beware. The janitor ghost roams this zone. He strikes with the fury of lemon cleaner." Hank covered his mouth to stop a laugh. "Janitor ghost," he mouthed silently. "Nice." Then he peeked out and saw 2 soldiers dragging a giant hologram statue of him through the wreckage. The statue had perfect muscles. And wings. Hank frowned. "Where are they getting the wings?" A shadow blocked the barrel opening. "You come with us," growled a towering honor guard holding an electrified ladle. Hank blinked. "Is this about the statue? Because I didn't approve the jawline." He was marched into the Queen's command dome, a shimmering purple structure held up by carved bone pillars and glowing vines. Inside, alien officers stood around a table shaped like a nervous system. At the head sat Queen Saravixa, calm and deadly. When Hank entered, every alien turned. A hush fell. Hank raised a hand. "Hi." Saravixa's smile looked like a planned threat. "Human," she said. "Tell us your methods." "My methods?" Hank echoed. "You mean falling down and panicking?" The Queen circled him slowly. "Your first move. The spiral trip of chaos." "That was me tripping," Hank said. She nodded seriously. "A deception. Brilliant." "The flaming mop spin?" "That was panic." "The boot throw that destroyed our plasma cache?" "That was an accident," Hank said. The officers scribbled notes like students hearing a holy lecture. Saravixa leaned closer. "Your madness cannot be copied. It is pure." Hank swallowed. "I think you mean clumsy." "Join us," the Queen said. "Train my army." Hank stared. "I barely train myself. I've fought vending machines harder than enemies." "Exactly," she whispered. "You move like a creature with no fear or balance." By dawn, Hank stood on a dusty hill facing 24 elite warriors. Each one held a mop. Their faces were painted with war symbols. Their eyes burned with purpose. One had tattooed words on his arm that translated as, "Scrub or die." Hank rubbed his temples. "This is my life now." He took a deep breath and lifted his mop. "All right," he said. Lesson 1. Panic improvisation. He kicked a bucket down the hill. "Pretend that's a flaming mine. React." One alien dove. Another screamed and hugged a cactus. A third tried to eat the bucket. Hank nodded slowly. Good chaos." By sunset, the aliens were tripping on purpose, throwing boots as weapons, hiding in barrels, and spinning mops like deadly dance tools. Saravixa watched from a distance, arms crossed, unreadable. When training ended, she approached Hank and handed him a medal shaped like a mop. "For valor," she said. Hank stared at it. This is either the best day of my life, or a fever dream from glue fumes. A shout echoed from across camp. Master Janitor! The statue is finished. Hank turned. The 20-foot statue stood on a hill, shining under lightning flashes. It had wings again. Hank sighed. Yep. Fever dream. But for the first time, he stood a little straighter anyway. Even if his pants were still on backward. Because somewhere in the dust and thunder of Threction 9, a janitor who never wanted to be anyone important had accidentally become something dangerous. A symbol. A weapon. And to an entire alien army, the beginning of a new way to fight. By embracing chaos, falling loudly, and cleaning up war with a mop named Susan.